These are Mountain Laurel, Calico bush, or Kalmia latifolia hybrids. This one's Kalmia latifolia Clementine Churchill, and we've got another one over here, Ted Van Veen. Both beautiful cultivars. Masses of flowers in spring. They are evergreen shrubs along the eastern seaboard of the United States and up into the Appalachian Mountains. I think they start up in areas, the state of Maine, and then I think they go as far south as Florida and maybe Mississippi or Louisiana. I think they get down into those, as far south as some of those places. I think they go inland as far as Indiana. They're cool climate plants, so they're in Australia, I guess, more mountain type plants. So you can grow them in semi-shade, morning sun, or semi-shade, or even woodland conditions is okay. They don't like to be in hot afternoon sun or hot winds. If you're in a little bit of altitude or cooler climates, they'll absorb quite a bit of the climate of those environments. They're when the buds come out, they're extraordinary because they're kind of like when someone's making the icing on a cake. If you can see the buds here, they're quite extraordinary and beautiful. And then of course opening these beautiful calico flowers. They're in short supply at the moment. Our supplier unfortunately got burned out badly in the fires some years ago, and it's a game of catch up now because they are slow growing, and so nothing available at present, but hopefully in the future I'll have some material that I can share with people. There's many different varieties. There's quite a lot of banded flowers with banded like brownish coloured bands through the pink, red or white. There's some that are quite dwarf, some pure white ones, and even within separate to all the cultivars that are all got all these characteristics and different flowers specifically, even within the natural range they do vary quite a bit from area to area. There are other species beyond Kalmia latifolia. There are angustifolia, and I think there's 12 or 15 species, I can't remember in all. So there are other species, but they're generally not as well known, quite rare in most cases. Beautiful, good, rich green foliage. They tend to have masses of flower. After the flowers finish, they tend to have lots of seed heads. They're not particularly attractive, but they come and go quite quickly. These plants are getting a fair bit of afternoon sun in the Dandenongs here, but they have got some large gums behind me that protect them from any hot winds. So although they get a bit of overhead sun, they're tucked in around other shrubs, which maples and other plants opposite here behind me, that are protecting them from hot afternoon winds, sun and extremes. Yet in the overhead arc of the sun in the middle of the summer, they do get direct sunlight, but that doesn't seem to bother them now that they're established and got their roots down. And the roots are relatively cool because they've got this protection from the Japanese maples and so forth. Almost like candy floss, this variety. It's absolutely beautiful variety. So anyway, try Kalmia latifolia cultivars, or more often than not you're going to get seedlings rather than cultivars, but there are quite a few that have been imported by us and some other people into Australia, by King Galanders and a couple of others. Ted and Joy down at Jubilee Nursery, when they were going, they imported cultivars, but most of these are in gardens and none of them are available generally. Clementine Churchill was a variety we imported, and that is generally available every couple of 3 years. but in small numbers, unfortunately. Beautiful varieties, really good evergreen shrubs, but unfortunately a little difficult to propagate, so usually you're on some sort of waiting list to get them. But just so that you're aware, they are a beautiful shrub, and in the fullness of time, hopefully they'll be back in circulation, because they really do deserve to be in southern Australian gardens, in cooler gardens, not in hot, dry locations. That's a waste of time. But in these cooler southern gardens and locations like the Dandenong Ranges, southern Victoria, cooler, wetter spots of South Australia, the Adelaide Hills, the Blue Mountains in New South Wales, and further south and inland in higher areas. Certainly a large area of Tasmania in the cooler, moister areas, not in the hot, dry areas. But down in Tassie, because you're so far south, if you have got access to water, well, you can overcome that to a certain extent. They like good soils, rich soils. They don't like sandy soils or poor quality soils. So clay is fine. Clay tends to have a reasonable amount of natural organic matter in it and goodness, and they tend to feed well and grow quite well in clay. This is reasonably heavy soil through to clay here, and as you can see, they're thriving here. The other aspect of it that's important in this location is they've got great drainage, because even though it's heavy soils, there's a nice gentle slope all the way through, so they're never sitting around in a puddle of water. So Kalmia latifolia, Mountain Laurel or Calico bush, they're mostly known as, and certainly one of the most beautiful evergreen shrubs. Look, these plants have been here 30-40 years, and they've been pruned for cuttings multiple times, but they're only basically just a bit over 2 metres or thereabouts. They would be perhaps 2.5-3 metres unpruned, and that's they're unlikely to get much more than that unless they're in these cooler mountainous sort of areas, like up in the Dandenong Ranges at a bit of altitude. They'll probably get up 3 metres plus. You see them up in old gardens quite often that are 2 to 3 metres at least, sometimes a bit more, drawing to the light under bigger trees. But that's in the fullness of time. They do take a long while to get that big.